Good day, students. Welcome to mathgotserved.com. And this clip we're going to be going over section 1.5 of our series on decimals and place values. We're going to be looking at how to compare and order decimals. All right, the type of problems we're going to be covering it in this presentation. An example problem is presented here where you have to order these four decimals from greatest to least. Don't forget, we have 5 practice problems at the end of this presentation for you to try out in order to demonstrate mastery of the contents of this tutorial. To gain access to our entire collection of arithmetic, algebra 1, 2, geometry, pre-calc, and calc courses, take a look at the links in the description below. Alright, instructions for question 1 are for us to order the numbers from least to greatest. So let's say we have the following numbers: 4.321, 4.731, and the decimal 4.371. Okay, so we have to order these numbers from least to greatest, basically from the smallest to the biggest. So what's the procedure for comparing decimals and ordering them? So the steps as follows. What you do is you line up the decimal points. Let's just put it on the side here. The steps are you line up the decimal points. The reason why you're lining up the decimal points is you want to ensure that identical place values, digits in identical place values line up vertically. Okay, so you want to make sure you're comparing the ones, the tenths, the hundredths, and the thousandths. That's why you line up the place values. Okay, and then after you line up the decimal points, also which involves or results in the alignment of the place values, you go ahead and compare digits. Now the order is really important. You have to start from the leftmost digits, basically the highest place value, all the way to the least place value. So how do you do that? So compare digits from left to right. Okay, not right to left. Compare from left to right. So we're going to follow those steps here. Okay, so what we're going to do is write down these numbers, these 3 decimals, in a way where the decimal points are aligned. So we have 4.321, and then we have 4. See how I'm lining up the decimal points and the digits to tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 4.731, and then 4.371. So make sure that the digits line up perfectly. You must compare identical place values. You can't compare tenths in one number to hundredths in another number. That's inaccurate. All right. Okay, so we've done step 1, which is line up the decimal points, which results in the vertical alignment of the place values. And then we're going to start comparing from where? From left to right. Okay, the biggest place value. So the biggest place value is the ones place in this particular situation here. And another thing that you also want to keep in mind is that make sure that all the place values are filled. Like in this place, all the place values are filled. If you have any place values that are missing, like we'll see in the next example, put a placeholder there, namely 0. Okay? Alright, so ones place, compare all the ones place, all the digits in the ones place for the 3 numbers. First, second, and third. They are all the same for the ones place. So that doesn't really help us. So we're going to advance to the next place value, which is the tenths place. Okay? So let's see what happens in the tenths place. Remember, we're going from left to right. Now compare 3, 7, 3. Which one is the biggest or which one is the smallest? All right, let's look for the biggest. What is the biggest out of the 3 of them? The biggest is 7. So since this is the biggest, that automatically tells us that this number is the greatest. All right, so this is the greatest. Let's line them up. Let's put them on our number line here so that we can keep track of what's going on. Okay, so remember your number line increases to the right. All right, so we have three numbers that we want to arrange. We have the least, the middle one, and the greatest. So the greatest is 4.731. This is the greatest right here on the number line, and this is the least. All right, so which of these two is the least and which is going to be in the middle? Let's go ahead and figure it out. All right, now since this one is already eliminated, we can focus our energy on the first and the last one. We're now going to advance to the next place value, namely the hundredths place, and compare the first and the third. Which one is greater? The hundredths place. So the hundredths place is right here. So 2 and 7, which digit is greater? Oh, 7 is greater. Bam, right here. Let's use the green. So this one is the second greatest. Number 2, second greatest. So since there are only 3, and this is the greatest and this is the second greatest, guess what? This guy right here is the least. Okay? If there were more, you just keep going down and down the place values. Okay? Alright, so let's put them in. The least is 4.321. 4.321 is less than the next one is 4.371, and 4.371 is less than 4.731. Okay, remember your inequality symbol. The less than looks very much like L. See how it is? Less. And remember, the alligator always eats the bigger meal, right? So wherever the inequality is facing is opening 2, that's normally the bigger one, right? So 4.371 is bigger than 4.31 since the inequality opens to the bigger, and then the same applies to these two right here. Okay, so the problem said to arrange them from least to greatest, so we're going to be going from the smallest number to the biggest in our list. So our answer is 4.321. We're going to separate them with commas, okay? Least. And then next is 4.371. And then the greatest is 4.731. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that's the answer to question number 1. Let's go ahead and box that and take a look at another example. Okay, so in question number 2, this time you want to make sure that you follow the instructions. We're ordering from greatest to least, okay? In the other example, we're ordering from least to greatest, so keep that in mind. So let's say we have the following numbers: decimal 7.3, 23.45, 7.35, and 0.934. Alright, so the task is to order these 3 decimals from greatest to least. So we're going to follow the steps that we outlined in problem number 1. Line up the decimal points and then compare digits starting from the left. Okay? Alright, so let's go ahead and write down the numbers, lining them up perfectly. So we have 7.3, and then we have 23 point, oh snap, let's fix that. 23, make sure I line up the decimal points perfectly, 0.45. And then we have 7.35. And then lastly 0.934. So you have to make sure that you line up the decimal points and corresponding place values vertically. Okay? And then another point that we highlighted was you want to make sure that all place values are filled. Okay? Alright, so let's fill out the place value. So we have only one digit here in the hundreds place, so let's put 0, Put in placeholders there, 0, 0, 0. All right, and then here we have a missing digit for the hundredths place, so put a 0. And then we have a thousandths place, only one digit, so you put a 0 here, put a 0 here, put a 0 here. Okay, so make sure you don't have any place values missing. If there are no digits there, you just put a placeholder, namely 0, and then you can use that for your comparison. Okay, so looking good. Now we're going to start from left to right. So we're going to start from the leftmost place value in this particular problem. It's the hundreds place. Hundreds. Okay, so which one is the biggest one? The biggest one is 23. 2 is bigger than 0, right? Okay, so we have our nice little number line here that's we're gonna use to organize our numbers. So there are 4 of them. This is a number line, and you know a number line goes from least to greatest, right? So 1, 2, 3. It's not drawn to scale, it's just random. Okay, so the biggest one, the greatest one is going to be to the right side, so that's going to be 23.45. Okay, so this is the greatest. This guy right here, greatest. Let's move on to the next. So which one is the second greatest? We're going to now move to the ones place, okay, and then compare the other 3 digits. All right, so 770. Oh snap, we have a tie with the 7s, and this is the smallest out of this 3. So what does that tell us? Since these 2 tie and this is smaller than both of them, this is automatically the least. Okay, so when you're comparing, you can easily find out the greatest. You can also find out the least. So here we have the least one, least number. So if we put it on our nice little number line, 0.934 is going to be right here. So now we have 2 more to compare. Which one is the second greatest? We're going to advance to the next decimal place to help us out, which is the tenths place. Tenths. All right, so compare 3 and oh snap, we have another tie. So what do? We had a tie in the ones place for these 2 numbers, 7.3 and 7.350, and we have another tie in the tenths place. We have to advance to the next place value, which is the hundredths place, and see what happens there. We know they are not the same because they look different, right? Okay, so now we're still comparing the first one and the third one. We're now comparing 0 and 5. Oh, now we have a winner. 5 is greater than 0. Since 5 is greater than 0, that automatically means the third number is greater than the first. So this guy right here is the second greatest. And this one is the third greatest. And we already know what the least is. Alright, so let's put it on our number line. Make sure we have a good visual. 0.934 is smaller than the next one, starting from the least, right? So the least, we're going to go to the third greatest, 7.3. And that one is smaller than the second greatest, 7.35. Alright, so you see this is the least right here. So you see our number line, the greatest is 23.45, the second greatest is 7.35, and the next one is 7.3, and this is 0.934. Alright, so 0.934 is less than 7.3, 7.3 is less than 7.35, and 7.35 is less than 23.45. Okay, so our final answer, we're going to order them. It says from greatest to least, so write the greatest number first, 23.45. And then the next one is 7.35, followed by 7.3, and then the least one comes last, 0.934. Alright, so this is the answer to question number 2. Okay, now let's take a look at question 3 to 5. It's where to compare the given decimals using less than, greater than, or equal. Okay, so let's review our inequality symbols again. This guy right here that looks like an L is less than, don't forget, less than. And then this other guy right here, this inequality symbol is greater than. And then this is equal. Okay, so since we're all experts in ordering right now, we're going to fly through these real quick. Number 3, 0.792 and 0.79, we're going to follow the same procedure, okay? So mentally, if we align both of them together, we can start to compare identical place values. If we line them up, this 7 and this 7 will line up perfectly. Why? Because they're both in the 10th place, okay? So when we compare the digits in the 10th place, they both are identical, so we have a tie. We advance to the next one. Remember, when you line it up, the decimal point, you start from the left to the right. You don't look at the zeros because both of them are zeros. That's the same, so it doesn't really count. So let's look at the 100th place. We have a 9 and a 9. Oh, snap. We have another tie. Okay? Now, this one has 3 digits. It's to the 1000th place. This has only 2. So what do? We put in a placeholder 0. Now we compare. The 1000th place. We have a 2 and a 0. Which one is bigger? This one is bigger. Okay? So since this number is greater than this number, you're going to put in the inequality symbol, making sure that it's eating the bigger meal. Okay? So 0.792 is greater than 0.790 because in the 1000th place, the first one has a greater digit than the second one. Okay, moving along to number 4. Let's compare. So let's do this. Okay, so which one is, so what inequality symbol are we placing here? Greater, less than, or equal? So let's compare digits. If we compare the 10th place, bam, bam, we have a tie. If we compare the 100th place, bam, bam, we have a tie again. Now this has 0 and a 0 here. So it goes all the way to the 4th decimal place, or the 10,000ths. So what do we do to this guy right here? We add on 2 zeros. Bam, bam. Oh, identical. So this one is identical to this, and then this guy is identical to this. So they are both exactly the same. So what inequality symbol do we put here? Equal. 0.16 is the same thing as 0.1600. Okay? All right, let's move on to number 5. Let's go ahead and compare. Starting with the leftmost digits. The ones place 5 and 5, they're both in the same place value. They're equal, so they're the same. So we'll move on to the next place value, which is the 10th place. 3 and 3. We have a tie again. Move on to the next place value. The 100th place, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Oh, we have a winner. So the 7 is greater than the 6. All right, so in the 100th place, since this has a greater digit than the other one, it's going to be a greater. So the one on the left is greater. So the alligator eats the greater meal. So 5.372 is greater than 5.362. Okay? All right, now it's your turn to do some practice problems. So what we'd like you to do at this time, go ahead and pause the video presentation and try out these 5 problems. When you're done, click on the playback button and we are going to reveal what the correct answers are. Okay? So go ahead and try out these practice problems. Alrighty, welcome back. Hopefully you had a chance to try out the practice problems. So these are the solutions. Go ahead and check your work at this time. So how well did you do with the practice problems? Let us know in the comment section below what your score is. And if you have any questions about any of these, just specify what questions you have in the comment section also. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch this presentation. Really appreciate it. If you found the contents of this tutorial helpful in your studies of decimals and fractions, do give us a thumbs or a like, and do share with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for updates to other presentations such as this. Tons of support resources can be found at our website mathgotserved.com or in the links in the description below. Thanks again for watching and have a wonderful day.